sets up.
Suzanne Horner will get things started for the Cyclones. Ryan Flowers from the right side who goes long.
And that's very unconventional because for Iowa State, you didn't see a block up. So they really need to be a little bit more of a presence at the net.
Horner is senior from State College, Pennsylvania. On the right side again. Able to find the early rhythm. 2 balls long for Kansas State on the attack. The Cats will try from the left. Julian, outside hitter from Silver Lake, Kansas, sophomore.
And
Big 12 freshman team, excuse me.
And Julian got a little bit lucky there because she had a triple block, but the block was set wrong for Iowa State, just a little bit too far in the court, and it gave her line.
K-State with their first chance to serve. They get a service ace. Set, dug up. Trying the middle for the Cyclones, off the block and out of bounds. Grace Lazard.
And that's something that Coach Lynch said that she wanted to kind of set the tempo. And middle blockers coming from the middle, you set the tempo, which is a quick, dominant hit, and you saw straight out of the middle.
Lazard, a sophomore from London, England. One of the better athletes on this team. Cyclone serving. Wildcats will try the middle. Tapped over the block, but out of bounds. Kansas State ties it up.
And that's something that's kind of been the Achilles heel for Iowa State, is making sure that they pick up those tips that are right behind the blocker, and you see that Kansas State took advantage of their weakness.
Macy Flowers, sophomore. Chanute, Kansas to serve. In the middle again for the Cyclones. Here's Horner running the offense right now as the setter.
And again, you see Brooke Sasson right there. Great high touch on that ball. Not necessarily a quicker tempo for Kansas State, but still a good contact, making sure that that goes high hands off the block of Iowa State.
The senior Sasson from San Antonio, Texas, transferred from Mississippi State, a second teamer in the Big 12 Conference last season.
And again, you're going to see a lot of tips from Kansas trying to expose their weakness for Iowa State. So good job of them making sure that they're handling the ball.
Cyclones from the right. Morgan Kirk, the redshirt senior. All Big 12 first teamer. Live on from Kirk.
And that's what happens when you take care of the ball. You see earlier in the play, they made sure that they took care of the defensive end and getting those tips, but that transition was perfect for Iowa State.
Coach Johnson Lynch saying that Kirk really good hitter when she can get those line kills. Saved by Brand. Exactly what we were talking about in the open. Such a good setter bringing that ball back.
And her coach says that she's one of the best players to ever handle the bad balls that come her way. She's very dynamic, very versatile player to be able to have as a setter.
Junior Brenna Vogel from Clearwater, Kansas to serve. His offensive player of the week in the Big 12 back in week number 4. Quickly into the middle and our way from the Cyclones. Something that the 6'2" has brought them more offensive options.
And that's definitely what's so different. You see Kansas State running a 5-1, so they're going to see a lot of dynamic offense, a lot of quicks behind the setter to make sure that they have hitters at the pins. But for Iowa State, you see that at every angle they have an attacker.
Got the tips, that ball close and tapped over the net. Ellie Sandbach, a freshman from Lee's Summit, Missouri. Sasson will serve. Just a reminder, that's 3 out of 5 sets here. First 4 to 25, win by 2. The fifth, if necessary, will be to 15. And as we are in Big 12 play, the challenge system is in place. 3 challenges for both coaching staffs.
Great job by both teams of making sure that they keep every ball off of the floor. You see a lot of bodies spraying across the floor. But again, that helps with the transition and the quick termination of the ball by number 6 for Iowa State.
Alexis Conaway. Preseason All Big 12 teamer. Cyclones will try from the right. Samara West on the swing. Big attempt, goes out of bounds.
And you notice that that ball was received from the libero, Haley Hillgrass. And that's a strategy for Kansas State to always go to position 1 where the setter is so that they can be out of system more times than they are now.
We will see this a lot from Katie Brand. Averages just over 1 kill per set quickly with the dump from Brand.
And that's something that's unexpected. Again, with a 5-1, you're allowed to be an attacker as a setter. So she's, again, so versatile, but so smart and has a high volleyball IQ to know when to do that at the appropriate time.
Brand, a 2-time AVCA honorable mention All-American. And it's Jess Shaven cleaning it up from the middle as Bill.
And what a heads-up play by her. She could have easily just stepped back and made sure that her team, Iowa State, settled down in their offense to get the pass going, but she put that ball right back over the net.
Shaven, the Big 12 Freshman of the Year last year, the AVCA Midwest Freshman of the Year, as Alexis Conaway goes back to serve. Cyclones leading by 1 here in the opening set.
Katie Brand serving for Kansas State.
Katie Brand will now serve. Mentioned the honorable mentions as an All-American. She's a 2-time Big 12 first teamer. Kansas State there with the block.
And that's something also kind of a crucial element to the 6-2 offense. You see that that set for West was a little bit short, but also a little bit too inside for her being such a dynamic player.
Monique Harris, working as the setter, will set this ball back to the right for Samara West.
And that's something that you want to keep Samara West at the pins. You don't want to kind of move her a little bit too much. You want to keep her at the pins, make her get comfortable in that element, and then start to kind of utilize her in other areas.
Funny talking with head coach Johnson Lynch. She is a setter in her playing career, and she said it's not my preference to run this type of offense, but with the personnel that we've had and the issues that we've had to adapt. Always appreciate that, hearing from a long-tenured coach that throughout her 20 years, she's only ran this type of offense once before, but looked at her team and said, this is what we need.
And this is what they need because it's out of necessity. It's not necessarily out of her want or desire to run an offense like this, but it's been working for them. Again, they are bigger at the net. They're able to touch a little bit more balls. You see that block just didn't penetrate the net. But again, you're touching a lot more balls and you're getting to be able to be a little bit more offensive.
Brand set Brenna Vogel in the middle. Kansas State ties it up at 10 apiece. New setter now, Suzanne Horner in for Iowa State.
And you see Morgan, she's away from the setter. So you see 2 different middles. You see that one in Kurt, she's going to go in front of the setter, whereas Lazar, she goes behind the setter sometimes. And that is a dynamic force for 6-2 offense.
Brandon Berta serving for the Cyclones. Taken over by the Wildcats. Horner will try the left side. Morgan Kurt ends our longest rally of the night so far.
And how How about that? The energy where you're coming from. You're sitting as a spectator and you're just watching the ball. This is quality volleyball. You see that there's not a lot of ball sprayed across or body sprayed across the floor. They're taking their intelligence of the game and knowing when to terminate the ball.
Iowa State now with the 2-point advantage. Brand will try the middle. Sent back on the swing from Vogel. Sasson wide on that attempt from the left. Kansas State will take a timeout as the Cyclones have opened a 3-point advantage here in set number 1. Saturday on ESPN, the college football slate has 3 games from the Big Ten, all with college football playoff implications, starting with number 2 Michigan versus Michigan State. You remember the crazy ending to that one last season. Northwestern versus number 6 Ohio State, coming off that loss against Penn State. And then the nightcapper, number 7 Nebraska versus number 11 Wisconsin. All the games also streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN. You're trying to get me to big up your Louisville Cardinals, right?
Absolutely. You can't say enough about Lamar Jackson. Phenomenal quarterback.
Early front runner for the Heisman Trophy. Tyler Denning, Jennifer Fowler, a 2-time All-American at Louisville.
Again, we're getting another long rally, but it's consistent, intelligent volleyball. Swinging and terminating the ball. And you see that out of the middle from Macy Flowers.
Was K-State with the timeout, so they're able to break the rally.
And you always want to go to the middle because they are the quicker tempo. You see that Gracie Laser, for Iowa State wasn't really connecting with K-State.
Flowers will serve for the Wildcats. Corner quickly to Lazard. Rolled over by Capizio. Chance for K-State. Quick into the middle. Kirk blocked at the net. Sandbothy teaming up on the left side with Sasson.
Good job by both of them of penetrating the net, making sure that they have the timing correct. And you see that Sandbothy just goes over and with her right hand makes that ball go back down on the side of Iowa State.
Neither of these teams the strongest in the conference at blocking. K-State 6th in the conference, Iowa State 9th.
And you see another, that time that was a triple block for Kansas State. And sometimes when you have a triple block, you have to know as a player where the holes are, especially for a dynamic hitter on the outside for Iowa State.
So now all tied up. 3 straight points from the Wildcats. Kirk will find the floor for the Cyclones. Lazard serving. And will go over her head. Off the block and out of bounds.
And I know when I was playing as a middle blocker, we always wanted to be the setter, and you saw that Laser delivers that ball outside perfectly to get that kill for Iowa State.
Talked with Coach about Grace Lazard, said she had some good coaching as a member of the English national team, but hasn't competed at this level consistently.
And you see that that was just a mishandle. Very, very rare from Katie Brand. But again, Kansas State needs to just settle down in their offense. They're kind of letting Iowa State kind of just push forward. They need to side out in this play to get the ball back.
16-13, so now 3 straight from the Cyclones. Brand will try the left, and it's Sasson there to stop the rally.
And I think that made a big difference in the delivery for Katie Bland because she jumps at that ball. She made that ball move a little bit faster, and you see that the middle blocker for Iowa State was too late. Conway was too late getting to close that block.
Brand leads the Big 12 in assists per set, is 4th in the NCAA in that category, so one of the best out there. Curtis stuffed on the left-hand side.
And sometimes, again, you have to be able to see the hands of the blocker, and Kurt just went a little bit blind into that block, just wanting to attack and hit the ball, not necessarily seeing the hands of the left side hitter for Kansas State.
It's Brooks Sasson on the block. Horner in its setter now for Iowa State. All kept alive. Taken over by Sasson. Chance now for the Cyclones from the back middle. Shaben. Wildcats will just have to get it over. Horner for Capizio.
And I really think that they missed a call on that for Iowa State. Maybe it's home court advantage, but that ball was a little bit outside of the pins when it was hit on the right side. But good job by K-State of staying in their offense. But Iowa State gets the ball.
Leading 17-15 as Morgan Kurt, the senior from Waverly, Iowa, will serve. Brand back sets. Try the other side.
I think Sasson and Brand, they really need to kind of fine-tune their delivery. Brand is giving a great ball to Sasson, but it seems like she's going a little bit early on her approach. If she were to wait a little bit longer, she would be able to see Iowa State in the hands of the blockers.
The lead just one now for the Cyclones. Sasson to serve. Taken over by Shaben. Brand will try the right side down the tape after the swing from Sambothy. Chance now for the Cyclones. Capizio off the block and out of bounds.
And Capizio right now not having such a great game, a great dominating game, but that was a great approach. You see it starts with the defensive end for Iowa State to be able to deliver that ball to Monique Harris and for her to give it to Capizio.
The Cyclones' last match, a 3-0 win at TCU. Capizio with her lowest output in terms of kills for the season. Joust at the net. What a heads-up play going to that back corner. Monique Harris, one of the two setters for the Iowa State Cyclones.
Playing a little bit of two ball there. It's not always going to go over on three. We always hear that it's, pass, set, spike. But sometimes taking it over on two is just as effective.
For the Cyclones, a record of 11-9. 8 of those 9 losses have been against very good teams. 2015 NCAA teams, an RPI of 49. And the RPI really affected by winning those matches, so they've played quality opponents. They just haven't found the win. But we talked about it at the top of the show. Big reason why they've switched from the 5-1 to the 6-2. And Coach Johnson Lynch telling us earlier that she feels like this team's really coming into form. Great time to do it, second time through conference play.
Absolutely, and you see their RPI at 49. Right now, being in the Big 12, you really just have to get some wins in order to elevate and make a case for going into the NCAA tournament early, because you have teams from the Big 12 like Kansas State gaining some votes in the NCAA, coaches poll. So you have to be able to just get some quality wins under your belt, even though their RPI could be, and their strength of schedule, I think about at 15, the 15th best schedule in the NCAA. So they just really need to just get a win.
As for Kansas State, 16-5. Good wins against number 6 Hawaii, Creighton as well. They've lost to Arizona, Michigan, number 4 Wisconsin, number 4 Texas, and number 6 Kansas. This all at the time, the rankings. So this is a very good Kansas State Wildcats team, an RPI of 17. And they, right now, you think if the season ended, they would be in the NCAA tournament for sure?
I think they have a definite case, and it's so odd because in the Big 12, they're 4th in the conference play with Texas. But you have to look at who they play. Their strength of schedule is the test.
Rand trying to go with the dump quickly, but Iowa State ready. She will back set. Wow. Katie Brand is so impressive, so versatile. She can do it all.
And again, another heads-up play by Katie Brand to know that she's in the front row with a 6-2 offense like an Iowa State, you saw that Monique Harris, the previous play, took it over in 2, but she's not allowed to cross the plane of the net.
The libero, Kristen Kober, serving for the Wildcats. Live swing for Iowa State. Jess Shaben.
And again, you see that Shaben maybe takes a little bit of power off of her arm, but she hit right through the hole of the Kansas State block.
Week 6 Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, 8th in the Big 12 in kills per set, has gone double digits in 7 of 8 conference matches. For the sophomore Shaben. Off the block and out of bounds, Macy Flowers on the swing for the Wildcats.
And you see when Katie Brand is up at the net in positions 2 through 4 that they really run the middle behind the setter, and they've been utilizing that a lot with Shaben as the blocker.
Brand will serve and go long. Coach Fritz, though, just gushing about Katie Brand as a leader, her growth and making everybody better, talking about that's really what she's been most proud of, is that she has elevated her teammates like a setter and a good leader does.
And she talks so highly of all of her players. It's just remarkable to kind of hear that more of their goals are statistically driven, but they still have that element of team. They still have that competitive nature to make sure that they're meeting their goals.
Brand teaming up with Flowers, pleasing Coach Fritz.
And again, with that back set, Katie Brand, again, back row this time, but she's still utilizing her middles by running behind the setter on that slide.
21-19, Brand keeping that alive. Iowa State at the advantage, quick into the middle for Lazard. Knocks Brand to the floor, but still in play. Down the line, the block of Lazard. Teaming up with Jess Shaben.
And
a little bit of defense.
And we've seen so many solid rallies. You can't get enough of good, solid volleyball. You see that Shaben just penetrates the net. Great timing, making sure that her hands are on the ball.
Mentioned these two teams playing once already this season. Was a 4-set win for K-State. Iowa State did take that first set in the first meeting, 25-21. They lead 22-19 here, tipped over the block. Cyclones can't get there. Big point for the Wildcats.
And again, Kansas State is really exposing the tip and that element of making sure that you're able to pick up the tips as well as the hard-driven balls.
Macy Flowers will serve. Both coaches expecting a completely different matchup with the changes for Iowa State personnel-wise, and also playing here at home. Morgan Kurt with the big swing. Has a match-high 5 kills now, hitting an even 300.
And you see Devin was already on the floor trying to make sure that that ball doesn't touch it. Maybe if she were on her feet a little bit longer, then she would have gotten that ball up.
Grace Lazard will serve. Ran to the left side, taken home. Sasson.
And what drove that play was the fact that the middle hitter, Sandbooth, came in front of the setter as though she was running a 1, and the outside hitter, Sasson, just came a little bit further in, away from the pins, taking the blockers away as well.
And we'll try Sasson again. It's a good duo.
And that play was a little bit in rhythm. I know what I was talking about before that play was that Sasson was a little bit off of her rhythm, taking a longer approach and going slower to her approach. That was in rhythm. That made the kill.
So now just a 1-point advantage for Iowa State as we're getting close here in the first set at 23-22. The advantage for the Cyclones. Timeout called by Iowa State. Both teams will talk it over. What's impressed you so far? Good. You mentioned earlier quality volleyball we're seeing.
I think quality volleyball, but also the fact that nobody is letting the ball touch the floor. It's not just, it's all about defense with both of these teams, and it's allowing their setters to distribute the ball evenly.
Well, Well, Saturday night college football on ABC comes from Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee when number 12 Florida State hosts number 3 and undefeated Clemson, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ABC, also streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN. You'll be watching this one with intrigue as Clemson, with that win over Louisville already, leads the Atlantic Division. Florida State tied for third. It's a good matchup. Last year, Clemson winning 23-13 on their way to the college football playoff final, eventually losing to Alabama. But as a Cardinals fan, you'll be watching.
I'm just crossing my fingers.
You're cheering for Florida State.
Oh, absolutely. But then that'll make a three-way tie for ACC. But, you know, this could be the first year that two ACC teams get into the playoffs.
Still much to be decided. Definitely a great matchup to tune in and watch this weekend. 23-22, K-State to serve. Beautiful serve from Brenna Vogel. Ties us up.
Now we'll see if Coach Lynch will kind of rotate the defense, maybe pushing out just to pass two. And you see that they do bring out Kurt to pass, and then they pull up Caprizio.
Corner will try Kurt. Sent back. Try the other side. Kansas State with the big block.
And again, Caprizio is really not recognizing how big of a presence Kansas State's block is. They were waiting for her. So maybe just kind of elevating herself, but also moving around that big block of Kansas State.
So it was 23-20, now a 4-0 run for the Kansas State Wildcats. Let's take a look at that last block.
And you see that Caprizio didn't really have anywhere else to go. She didn't even try to go around the block. She just went in hoping that she would cut that corner, and it just didn't work out for her. Great block by Kansas State.
Now 5 blocks for the Wildcats to just 1 for Iowa State. This 4-0 run has them 1 point away from set point. First sets are important to the Wildcats. 12-0, perfect when winning the first set this season. Sometimes those stats may be more important to us announcers than they are the actual players. They may not even be aware of such.
Well, what's been impressive for Kansas State is their blocks. They're doing 5 compared to Iowa State's 1. So they're terminating more balls and putting them on the floor with their blocks, and that's what's got them back into the set.
This is a big one, too, for Kansas State. They haven't won here in Ames since 2007, something we brought up to Coach Fritz. She said, thanks for reminding me.
She didn't like that very much at all.
8 straight losses here at Hilton Coliseum, although they have won the last 2 in the series, both of those coming at their home place. So Kansas State with a chance to take set number 1. Vogel to serve. Ran for Sasson. And the Wildcats win the first set.
I think what both teams need to do, especially Iowa State, they really need to come back and make sure that they take care of the ball on their side of the court.
So Kansas State rips off a 5-0 run to take the opening set, 25-23, paced by Sasson with 7 kills. So Kansas State rips off a 5-0 run from 23-20 to end set number 1. And we talked about the versatility of setter Katie Brand. It was on display in the first set.
And she almost has a double-double. She's at 14 assists now and 9 digs. So she is, again, getting on all cylinders, and in every area of each play, she is making a difference.
Katie Brand, one of the best setters in the country, has 63 career double-doubles, 12 on the season. But how about Brooke Sasson down the stretch? 3 of those 5 points kills courtesy of Sasson's arm.
And 3 blocks, too. You have to look at the disparity with Kansas State and Iowa State in their blocking. She made a big difference. 3 blocks. Again, 4 of the last 5 points for Kansas State to end that set.
So the Wildcats rally at the end to take a 1-0 advantage. Teams will trade sides. Tyler Denning, Jennifer Fowler here in Ames, Iowa. Some Big 12 volleyball action. Wildcats 4th in the conference. Iowa State right behind them, tied for 5th. Cyclones will start serving this second set. Kansas State will start serving. Cyclones right in front of us. Will be Kober to serve.
And I think the strategy for Kansas State is to go to Caprizio. She has not been having a solid passing game, and they know that that's her weakness. So you'll see a lot of service balls driven to Caprizio.
Monique Harris, the setter for Iowa State. That easy work, Samara West.
And I think Monique Harris has the most success when she's just on the floor, just being a distributor of the ball.
Capizio to serve. Well long from Julians.
That ball just a little bit too far off for Julian to take her full approach to be able to be dynamic for Kansas State.
Capizio, the leader in aces for Iowa State on the season. Harris will get the ball to Jess Shaben. Jess Shaben's 3rd kill of the match.
And I think that's because of running a 6-2, you don't always have to take all of the out-of-system balls or all of the in-system balls. So they're resting Shaben a little bit with the issues that she's having with her shoulder.
Shoulder injury has been plaguing her all season, so similar to a pitcher in baseball that they like to keep those swings down. Coach telling us that she couldn't do 60 swings a match and play 2 matches in a week. One of the reasons why they've gone to this offense, as you've mentioned, try to distribute the ball a little bit more. Effective here.
And you see that Caprizi, she was set in that pass to make sure that the first tempo is established for Iowa State in the middle.
Cyclones lead by 2. Conaway serving. Brand will try the middle. Wow.
And I don't think anybody in the gym saw that Vogel came from behind the setter into position 2 to just take a beautiful swing at the ball.
Great elevation, got a great look at that one. Found nothing but the court for Brenna Vogel. Harris will try the right side. Samara West. Great save by Katie Brand into the stands. Harris for Shaben, back corner.
And you know, that was a good decision from Iowa State to deliver that ball to Shaben to make sure that it ends the play as quick as possible. You have Grace Lazard in the middle, but she wasn't able to set. Ball went out to Shaben. She terminated the ball quick.
Shaben's 345 kills last year, 2nd most in program history for a freshman, so the future is bright for Jess Shaben and the Cyclones. Into the middle from the Wildcats. Blocked at the net. Grace Lazard, the best blocker on the team, per Christy Johnson-Lynch.
But let's talk about Hillegrass getting that ball back up so that Lazard can, in fact, get that block.
Haley Hillegas, the redshirt freshman libero. That ball ricocheting off her arm, something we haven't really talked about yet. This is Libero U within the Big 12. Iowa State has won Big 12 Libero of the Year the last 8 consecutive seasons. They've won it more times than the rest of the conference combined. So they are trying to find their libero. Hilligus didn't even come in recruited as a libero, a defensive specialist. She played setter and outside hitter in high school.
And coming into collegiate volleyball, being as short as she is, she may not have been an outside, she may not have been a setter, but putting her as defensive specialist and now rotating her in as a libero, playing 6 rotations, she has been a pleasant surprise for Iowa State.
Just 5'6" is Hilligus, as K-State will find a kill from the left-hand side. Brooke Sasson, the name we'll be calling quite frequently, already have, continuing her work from closing out the first set. Brenna Vogel will serve. Joust won by K-State.
And again, in a joust situation, you want to be the last person to have your hands on the ball. And that time, Brand had her hands on the ball all the way down.
Well, you talked about it when we were at serve and pass earlier. Having 6'1" as a setter that moves like that, every coach would kill for that type of height.
Absolutely, and she just moves so fluidly. She has a pretty distribution for her hitters, but to be that well-versed and that active, she actually played tennis. So that helped her a lot in her motion, and you see that her delivering that ball, good decision by the outside for Kansas State.
Coach Fritz telling us she was one of the top singles player, this Katie Brand, coming out of high school. Feet in the movement on display for one of the best setters in the country. We'll try the middle, a little bit off on the swing for Sandbothy. Iowa State there.
And maybe Katie Brand forced that into the middle, but she really didn't have anywhere else to go. And Grace Laser was just there waiting for her, hands on the ball.
So now Lazard will serve. Corner now setting in the rotation. Brand tried to go with the dump. Wildcats will take it over. Corner back sets. Kurt taps across. And the K-State block there. Who else? Katie Brand teaming up with Sandbothy.
And again, you hate to see a play end like that because both teams on both sides of the net were fighting. You see that ball trickle slowly down on the net. So Iowa State had enough time. That's why Caprizio is really upset with herself for not really going 100% to pick that ball up.
Knotted up at 8 as Sasson will serve. Brought up by Hilligus into the back middle. Try from the left side for the Cyclones.
And you see just a group. We can't help but sit here and watch it from where we are because, again, you just marvel in the way that every ball is just getting picked up. It's solid, straight to the setter. But everyone's being aggressive. Every woman athlete out there is making sure that they're doing their part to make sure their team wins.
Wildcats now with a 1-point advantage. That one into the tape. Down onto the floor. Third service error of the match for K-State. Morgan Kurt will serve.
Again, just making sure that the ball does not touch the floor.
Double contact called on Katie Brand, second one we've seen.
And I think in that particular situation, it was because she was on the floor, so her hands were not as, I guess, what they wanted. Too much rotation on the ball coming off of her hands.
Brand will try again. That was off the block. Julian's on the swing for K-State. Kober will serve. Kober, the 2015 Big 12 Scholar Athlete of the Year, said she wants to be a sports and entertainment attorney.
And you see another missed serve by Kansas State. They really need to tighten up their side of the net and limit their errors.
4 now to go against 3 aces. Iowa State, no aces and 2 service errors. Harris will try West. Off the arms of Vogel and well into the crowd.
And good decision by Harris, because her other two, the middle and the outside, Shaban, they were out of the play. So good decision by Harris of going back to West to terminate the ball.
It was Harris that took over as the setter when Big 12 play began. Then in the match against Texas 5 matches ago, they go back to that 6-2. Starting to find some stride. They're finding their stride here in the second set. The 13-10 advantage now. The Iowa State Cyclones looking for a crucial resume-building win in Big 12 Conference. Come back for the second set.
And we talk about what's making a difference in this game, and it's Kansas State and their blocking ability. You see that on every angle of the floor. Iowa State may be attacking dominantly, but it is being stopped by Kansas State in their block right now with 6 on the game.
Sandbothy with 5. Sasson with 3. These all block assists, so then credit a half, and that's where you get the 6.5 team blocks. Currently sitting at for the Kansas State Wildcats, Brooke Sasson, a 9-kill night thus far, match high for the senior from San Antonio, Texas. What a play by Brand.
That could have been called both ways. She kind of grabbed it and pushed it down, but it can be considered a block because the ball and where it was positioned at the point of the net.
Well, she just hangs up there, doesn't she? When she jumps, so many options you see. By attacking-wise, Coach Fritz gives her the green light. When you give that the green light, always Shaban.
And again, Shaban only with 5 kills, maybe resting that arm a little bit, but she took that full approach. Very dynamic player on the pins.
9 kills in the last match against TCU. Double-digit kills in 11 matches played. Leads the team. Does just Shaban. Kansas State back on the board.
And you see that Kansas State decided to tool the block of Iowa State. So what West needs to do is just maybe penetrate the net a little bit more with that right hand.
So if I'm at home and I don't know, tool the block, explain it to me.
Tool the block is just making sure that you utilize it, you see the hands, and make sure that the ball goes off the hands of the blocker.
Trying to send it out of bounds?
Trying to send it out of bounds, or making sure that they're the last person that touches it going into the pins.
15-12 the advantage. Ball back on the Cyclone side. Suzanne Horner to serve. Sasson right in front of Hillegas. Can't quite get under that one. So Sasson now the first player with double-digit kills on the match.
And again, you see Hillegas not really being able to move. She was already stuck in her defensive stance. So maybe if she was up a little bit, ready to retrieve the ball instead of making sure that the ball came to her, that ball would have been picked up.
Horner with the back set for Grace Lazard. Coaching staff talking about Lazard really coming into form over the last couple weeks. You see it right here.
And she's a dynamic player. She jumps really high. She reaches the ball high enough, but that's again where you get the 6-2. You have to be able to be fluid with who's setting you the ball.
Joe Lynch, who helps out coaching as well, said that the biggest key for Lazard is just not getting down on herself, keeping the confidence high. Right side for Kirk, tap across. Chance for the Wildcats. Sasson on the swing. Long rally ended with a block from Kansas State.
And again, next time I'm going to time how long these rallies are. Again, it's solid volleyball. You see that the block is established, and that just went higher off of the hands for Kansas State to put that ball back.
When just like we talked about coming out of the last break, we showed you the blocks. That's been the biggest difference, this long rally ending fittingly with another K-State block.
And that's what's keeping them in this set, and that's what brought them back in the first set, is their blocking.
Kept alive with the foot. Kept alive with the foot, albeit momentarily by Sandbothy. So Iowa State keeping that advantage at 3. K-State took the first set.
And you like to see plays like that, because had that gone to the advantage of Kansas State, you do whatever is necessary to keep the ball off of the floor.
Sasson will have a chance. Lazar there. Horner will try the left for Capizio. Out of bounds.
And again, Capizio has not really been meshing well with Horner. Maybe it's because of the 6-2. They're still trying to find their identity in this new offense. So Capizio not really finding her groove with Horner.
Horner to the back middle. Shaven will just have to jump on that one. Brand didn't like the call. 2 officials will get together to review here.
And I think that, just speculating, they're going to call that as an over for Iowa State, because the ball was over on the side of Kansas State, so that Katie Brand could not have the ability to play the ball.
Point goes to the Wildcats. Pivotal point.
And I think that was the right call. You know, it is a crucial point, and the momentum will shift. And you see Coach Johnson Lynch is saying, what exactly happened? But again, when the ball is over on the other side of your opponent's net, you cannot penetrate that and make sure that it stays there. You have to allow the player, in which case this was Katie Brand, to be able to have a play at the ball.
Johnson Lynch satisfied with the explanation, at least enough to let the point go on and play, and her team responds with a crucial point to push the lead back to 2.
And that's why you played a 25 and not to 1, right? Keep it moving.
I love that. Morgan Kurt. May have to steal that one from you.
Go ahead. I'm all for it. You gotta love the pace of volleyball.
Brand back set. Dug up by Hilligus. Tapped over by Capizio. Brand will try the left side, stuffed by the Cyclones. Do it again, tap down the line. What a heads-up play.
And again,
Beautiful.
a lot of heads-up play, but they're doing everything on both sides to make sure that the ball does not touch the floor. Good job by both teams of remaining consistent and remaining calm when you may think that it gets a little bit helter-skelter.
Was Alexis Conaway sending that one through the middle and finding the court.
Good job by her of actually not even touching the net, just elevating over, making sure that she tips that ball on the side of Kansas State.
So great back and forth action. Kansas State took set number 1 with the 5-0 run. So Iowa State looking to keep the distance here in set number 2. 3-point advantage at 19-16. Really evenly matched. You look down the stat line, hit percentage, kills, attack airs.
Both sets from the match so far. But again, I think the difference maker for Kansas State has been the consistency of Sasson on the outside. They can go to her for in-system and out-of-system balls. Whereas for Iowa State, when they get a little bit rattled, they don't have an execution. They don't have an out-of-system pass. That's why you see a lot of the balls going in the back row to Shaven just to make sure that they get it over. They don't have those aggressive attackers at the pins when Shaven is in the back row.
Well, after tonight's Rockets-Lakers game, tune in to SportsCenter at night with Stan and Neil. They'll have all the highlights and analysis from Game 2 of the World Series going on in Cleveland, as well as everything from around the NBA, NHL, and NFL. SportsCenter at night on ESPN, streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. Jennifer, it's that time of the year. NBA started last night. We got the World Series going on, college football, college volleyball here in the heart of conference play, NHL as well. If you like it, we got it.
But let's talk about the NBA and how I'm sure Golden State didn't anticipate being blown out by the Spurs.
They did not indeed. I think everyone will be pumping the brakes, both Golden State fans, and say, hey, it's just one game. You said, hey, it's just 1 point for volleyball, but 82 in the NBA as well. But great time of the year, my favorite time of the year.
Absolutely. And right here, you see Katie Brand, again, utilizing her strength, utilizing her size, and sitting that ball over in 2.
K-State chopping the lead to 2. Cobra to serve. Harris into the middle for Samara West.
And you see a little bit of a change for Iowa State. You've always seen Samara West on the right side, but that time she attacked in the middle right against the setter, and it worked for her. She's the first tempo, and she's used to playing out of the middle. They had to move her to the right side, and that worked for Iowa State.
Brand back sets. Iowa State defense was there. Harris will do the same.
And again, moving that player around, making sure that she kind of has a target on her back. And for Kansas State to make sure they stop her, you see West at the pins, terminating that ball as well.
West tied for a team-high 7 kills. Capizio serves for the Cyclones. Good swing by Shulians. Advantage still at 3. Ball back to Kansas State to serve. Katie Brand to do such.
Great heads-up play by Shaven just to take a little bit of the heat off. I think she recognized that there was a big presence at the block, and Kansas State has been doing a phenomenal job of sending that ball back on the side of Iowa State. Good heads-up play by Shaven.
Mentioned Shaven, freshman of the year last year, just building on that in this, her sophomore campaign. Quickly from the middle to Vogel.
Vogel now with 6 kills, 19 attempts, but she runs very fast and very fluid off of that middle, that 2 ball, just in between a 1 and a high ball, but she can see the entire court and goes right through the block.
Harris will go to the left. More the same from Shaben.
And what a blind play from Shaben. She was a little bit off, closer to the 10-foot line, than to have the ball between her and the net. But great attack, great swing. Even though that shoulder may be ailing her, it didn't look like it.
Suzanne Horner back in as the setter. This 6-2 formation for the Cyclones needing 2 points. Third service error of the match for the Cyclones. This is where Kansas State put the pedal to the floor in set number 1. Reciprocated by K-State.
And it's really one of those unfortunate things. You go back to the service line. That's your time to focus. You have 8 seconds to make sure that you get the ball at least 31 feet over on the side of Iowa State.
So now Iowa State with the chance to tie it up at 1 set apiece. Brandon Berta to serve. Called out of bounds was Grace Lazard. So still set point. K-State serving.
You have to know where your players are on the court and where the opponent's players are on the court. I think Katie Brand was waiting for that. She knew it was going to happen, and she just sent that ball right back on the side of Iowa State. What they need to do is they need to focus, and they need to get a pass up so that Caprizio can put this ball away for Iowa State.
Iowa State struggled in closing out set number 1, so now with just a 2-point advantage, the Cyclones will take a timeout. The coaching staff going over in the huddle.
And you see Coach Joe Lynch, he's saying you need to put that ball deeper in the corners. That's where you always want to place the ball, especially a free ball, because if you put them deeper in the corners, it has a further way to travel back to the net.
And if you want to get a kill and end a set, why not look for Jess Shaven?
And Shaven is right now in the back row. So you look for Caprizio to make sure that she terminates that ball, because you don't have Shaven in the front row making sure that she ends this set. But she has done a phenomenal job right now. 7 kills, 16 attempts, hitting .438. They would really use her in the front row right now to end this set for Iowa State.
Is the leading attacker for this Cyclones team. 3.48 kills per set. Mentioned that's 8th in the Big 12. So just trying to find the point, but to your point as well, in the rotation that they're in, stuck in the back. So now needing to find other options as well to try to tie things up at one apiece. Shaven is off the floor.
So they don't even have her as an outlet, an out-of-system ball coming from the back row. Again, to rest that shoulder, but now it stands on the arms of Caprizio.
Horner will try the right. Out of bounds on the swing from Kurt. Another set point. And there you have it. So it may have got a little dicey for Iowa State, but they do get the point that they need to close out set number 2.
And again, you don't want to get the point on someone else's mistakes, but lucky for Iowa State, they kind of tightened up at the end of that set. So right here, you know that you need Shaven and you need Caprizio to come on with the match tied at 2.
Iowa State with balance. Kurt was 7, Shaven was 7, and West was 7 as they take set number 2. Come back for the 3rd. Big reason, as we've mentioned, the more options to you in a 6-2 system with 2 setters and more attacking options, all 3 up front. First the 5-1, Harris for Lazard.
And Harris and Lazar work well together, maybe because Harris is a little bit shorter, so the ball has to travel a little bit longer to the high-jumping Lazar, but it works well for them in that tandem for setting. Now, again, when you get Horner in there, maybe setting Lazar is a little bit different. So that's the problem with the 6-2, is that you're not always getting the ball from the same person, the same setter.
Something Kansas State benefits from, getting that same ball from Katie Brand, and you see it in the work. Finding Sasson now, 11 kills on the match, leading all players, has a .321 hit percentage. How about that from Brand?
She is placing the ball in every direction. That was a nice little toss over the shoulder to get it into position 4, because she knows that nobody is behind there making sure that they take care of those balls. You see for Iowa State, Shaven was just a little bit unaware following the player for Kansas State with Sandbooth going behind the setter. So heads up play by Brand.
Quickly back to Lazard. That was looking like a good connection right there. Horner to Lazard on the back set, going off 1 foot, the product of London, England. As Jess Shaven sits down. But to go back to what you mentioned earlier with Samara West and these other players, Coach Johnson Lynch saying that people have emerged within practice and they'll emerge throughout the season, and you have to find ways to get them involved. So the adaptability, I think, is huge for a coach with such tenure and such success as Johnson Lynch to say, you know what we were doing maybe didn't fit our personnel and I don't do this, but I'm going to go this way.
And sometimes the 6-2 really does help with that dynamic of an offense, and you see that Iowa State is just using it to their advantage. So they've kind of unearthed some type of dynamic players, and you see that ball being blasted from the middle by Grace Lazar. She is up and ready. You see Horner delivers a perfect ball to her, and she went down swinging. Beautiful set.
Lazard, one of those options that this offense has opened up in the middle with those quicker sets.
Had some heat on the ball.
On showcase. here in set number 3 with the Cyclones up by 2. Well, that wasn't the prettiest from Brand to Julians, but worked out.
And it works because it gets you a point on the board. Whether it's a kill, whether it's a hard-driven ball, whether it's a tip, as long as it touches the floor on Iowa State, it gets you a point on the board.
Katie Brand. Coach Fritz telling us she believes she's one of the best setters in the country. You agree?
I do. She has very good distribution. Sometimes her footwork is not there to be able to accurately set her players. But it's all about timing and making sure that the players, when the ball is being delivered from her hands, to make sure that they have the timing right to approach the ball.
Was Morgan Kurt on the swing, the ball going long. Fans were quite displeased with such, and it looks like Coach Johnson Lynch will register our first challenge of the match.
And I think that's the right call because we talked with her and she wants to keep the integrity of the game and she wants to keep the game honest. So usually you'll see her asking her players, do you want me to make a challenge? Was that the right call?
So this is the NCAA challenge system now in place. They are challenging if the ball was in. So you see that one of the reviewable plays for the 3 challenges that teams have across the course of a match.
Just on the line.
On the line.
Just on the line.
It was called out on the court. I think in. You think in?
From what we see here, it's just on the line.
But you mentioned the integrity and the challenge system. Coach Johnson Lynch, as we're waiting for the official ruling here, inconclusive evidence was the call.
So the call stands and the ball was out.
And now, just a reminder, they are getting different looks than we get. They have our looks available to them. Here's the look again. So not necessarily the one that the official was looking at. The ball, in our opinion, looked like it was on the line, but nonetheless.
You kind of want to get that tennis video of when the ball is in or out on the line to be able to be sure.
That's how you leave no doubt about it right there. Just take it off a defender trying to dig it and out of bounds. Morgan Kurt to serve. Knotted up at 9.
Again, Caprizio with the nice high hands. I think that's her hit in this game because Kansas State puts up such a big block. She needs to recognize that there is always going to be a present and she needs to use the hands. High hands right out of bounds.
Long and out of bounds, but to just go back real quickly, you were talking about the integrity and Johnson Lynch and the challenge system. She's actually president of the ADCA, was elected at the start of the year. It will be a 2-year term. So she has spoke with a lot of coaches and talked with us about the challenge system. And we think everybody likes it, but there still needs to be some tweaks.
And inherently, the challenge system is good. We saw what happened with Florida in their match last year. The ball was clearly out of bounds, and they called it in. But there does need to be some tweaking of when you can utilize the challenge rule, maybe making it only at 15 because you see a lot of coaches using it so early that it kind of disrupts the flow of the game.
But still a good system to have in place here in the Big 12, utilized in the SEC and then throughout the rest of the country as well, but will be utilized in the NCAA semifinal and national championship match. 11 apiece here in set number 3, all knotted up. 1 apiece set-wise between these two Big 12 rivals. Triple block there to meet Sasson. Harris will try Shaben, who finds the floor.
And Fairfield needs to be a little bit further outside of the left hand of the blocker in order to pick up those balls instead of just guessing to make sure that the ball's out.
Cyclones now hitting at a 600 clip here in the 3rd set. 10 kills against 15 swings and just 1 error. Sasson again.
Sasson right now with 12 kills. They get a high hitting percentage from her. She's at 312 right now.
220 hitter on the season.
Very efficient.
Leading the team 14 matches and double-digit kills, 5 out of the last 6. Go ahead and make that 6 out of the last 7 now for Brooke Sasson.
And again, you have to utilize the first tempo. Grace Lazar is being a dominant force and a big presence. You see the timing with her and Harris is perfect. Again, a lot of those balls are angled at position 1, and that is to the setter, Katie Bland, when she's back in position 1, but also to the defender and Vogel, who can't handle the heat.
Lazard, since going to the 6-2 formation, 9 kills against Texas, 7 against South Dakota, 6, 10 against Baylor, and then 9 against TCU. Has 7 this match, but you see the even distribution across all the attackers. Brand quickly on the dump. Brand second on the team in kills for Kansas State.
With 9 right now, 600. And again, 30 assists, 15 digs. You really have to admire her aggression and her just strategic ability to make sure that she keeps Iowa State on their heels.
When as a defense, doesn't that just put so much more strain on you, knowing that the setter will dump?
And that's the presence of the 5-1, and you see with Iowa State, their block coming on a little bit when it's supposed to. You see that Lazar is up, ready, penetrating the net. Great timing on that block to just put that ball back. But going back to what Katie Bland offers Kansas State, she's a dynamic force. But the difference in the offense is what is important. With 5-1, you have to be aware of where Katie Brand is at all times.
Right side for Sandbothy. All tied up, 14 apiece. Into the middle for Lazard. Iowa State onto something big here.
I would seriously feed her the balls. They're getting the balls to the net on those good passes to help the setters distribute. You see that Horner was a perfect delivery to Grace Lazar.
Iowa State leading 15-14. We are tied at 1 set apiece. So you switch to a 6-2 formation. It's to find new options in the offense and utilize players that are coming on strong. Grace Lazard is that right there.
And she has a missile of an arm coming off and great contact on that ball, being first tempo, coming out of the middle. Very aggressive. She's doing it on both ends. First line of defense and 4 blocks, but also 8 kills and 8 dynamic kills coming out of the middle very quick.
Will serve for the Cyclones, leading by 1. Lazard will sit down. Horner is the setter on the floor for Iowa State. Katie Brand serves. Brand will try the middle. Morgan Kurt just wide out of bounds.
And again, you see a lot of back and forth between both of these teams. They're both very evenly matched, but it's also the ability to slow down the ball on the block. If it's not going straight down, it's going off of a touch and allowing the second line of defense to be able to pass those balls.
Katie Brand with a good serve, but the violation called against Kansas State.
Again, maybe Flowers was just a little bit over-eager and making sure that she touches that ball without giving Iowa State a chance to play it and set it.
Horner will sit down. Harris coming in as the setter. Morgan Kurt. Back to the bench. The Julians to serve for the Wildcats. How about that play right there?
And as tall as Shaban is, she was very athletic in making sure that that ball does not touch her. You see that she almost does a back bend with how quick that serve comes at her. We were playing earlier in the match, so you know how fast that serve comes at you.
Yeah, you were serving to me earlier at serve receive, and it was getting me. I didn't look that graceful indeed. There will be a challenge if the ball contacted the player. It looked like maybe the left shoulder of Jess Shaban is what we'll be looking at. Let's take a look here. So item number 2, ball making contact with the player. What do you think?
It's definitely from our angle. It's too close to call if it touched her left shoulder.
Last call was inconclusive on a challenge, and I don't know if you see something definitively here, changing the path of the flight of the ball.
I think that is something that will be definitive if the ball actually changed rotations or moved. Now, if she would have touched it on her left shoulder, that ball would have been redirected, but it wasn't necessarily redirected at all.
Inconclusive again on the evidence, so the call will stand. So, still a nice play by Shaban, as we were talking about, to
and again,
jump out of the way.
And again, if she would have touched that ball, there would have been some redirection on it, but it went straight, not touching.
So Capizio will serve now for the Cyclones. Back set from Harris to West. Brought up by Kober. Chance for Sasson.
And I'm unsure what the call was there. Harris had a touch on the ball to make sure that it stays off of the floor, but they call her with a lift. And in this rotation for Iowa State, if they get a good pass, look for Samara West to come out of the middle for a quick.
Good serve by Flowers, put pressure on Iowa State. Chance for the Wildcats, and it's Vogel.
And another net violation from Iowa State. You see that pass from Vogel, she's very dynamic, aiming that toward position 1 to make sure that Monique Harris has a handle on the ball.
Well, Saturday night, college football on ABC, Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. Number 12, Florida State, welcoming number 3, undefeated Clemson, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ABC. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN. Not a big Deshaun Watson fan, huh?
I'm just a bigger Louisville fan. How about that?
It'll be a great one down at Doak. ABC, Saturday night college football. Let's take a look at Grace Lazard and what she has done, so dynamic, working out of the middle for the Iowa State Cyclones.
And she has, again, 4 blocks, 8 kills on 20 attempts. She's been really dynamic, but very powerful and a big presence against Kansas State. She's just going on all cylinders, making sure that that ball is being geared toward position 1 to make sure that Katie Bland picks up some of those balls.
You've talked a lot about balance and options in a 6-2, and you see 25 attacks for Kurt, 21 for Capizio, 20 for Lazard, and then 18 for Shaban. So really spreading the ball around, and as mentioned with Shaban, with the tender shoulder, that you got to find other ways to get other players in, and it just gives you great offensive options, right?
And I think the bigger difference for both of these teams, again, has still been the block. You see
Samara West.
Again, she is very dynamic, and I think that the connection with Harris and West is a little bit better than Horner and West. Again, something we talk about in a 6-2. You're receiving the ball from 2 different setters, but Harris and West, they're connecting very well.
Haley Hilligus will serve for the Cyclones. Back set from Brand. Brand will do it again for Vogel, blocked at the net.
And a single block. So every time a player gets a single block, it's one of those excitements because she geared and pushed toward the inside of the court, making sure that that ball touches her hands.
Tied up at 19. Good point for Iowa State. Pivotal as we come to closing time in the set. Sasson sharply across. Wildcats trying to keep it alive. Brand will take it over. Harris cross court.
And it's one of, again, they call a mishandle for Iowa State. And that's very hard to handle when you're a setter, and that's your sole purpose in the game is to make sure that you distribute the ball. So when you get a double contact as a setter, it's really tough to handle.
Every setter probably says, I've never double contacted.
Well, that looked very, very clean coming from our side and what I see.
Harris to Samara West through the block, stays on the Wildcat side. We'll try Sasson. Well, long and out of bounds. Didn't catch any arms or fingertips of the Cyclones, so 20 apiece. Talking with Brand about where she wants the ball.
And you see that Harris will actually stay front row, so maybe Iowa State is getting into that 5-1 position and utilizing her on the outside.
Good eyes. Trying Sasson again, but the Cyclones out at 1 point advantage, but another challenge coming, this from Susie Fritsch and the Wildcats. Looking at a net fault.
Now, we can't tell if that was actually the ball clipping the net and making the movement.
That was the look from the net cam. Let's see if better vantage point here.
That looks to be the ball clipping the net, not necessarily any player from Iowa State helping that along.
Didn't look like any of the arms to me.
Well, it definitely wasn't Harris. She wasn't necessarily even on the net, but again, this may be another inconclusive call because it did look like the ball was the culprit in making the net move and not necessarily the players, Grace Lazar or Monique Harris.
Waiting on the ruling. No net fault called. So the call confirmed. Point stays with the Cyclones.
But if you're smart, Kansas State really needs to take advantage of the shorter block of Monique Harris. So Sasson really needs to be on her A game because a lot of those balls will be coming to the outside pin.
So go time here in Ames, Iowa at Hilton Coliseum. Great Big 12 volleyball action tied up at 1 set apiece. Tyler Denning, Jennifer Fowler. Kansas State with a much needed and important block as they've done throughout both first 2 sets. The defense comes up big.
And they knew where that ball was coming because Grace Lazar has been so dynamic in approaching the ball. That ball should have been set a little bit more to her left to make sure that it's geared toward position 1 for Kansas State.
See the blocks well in favor of the Wildcats. Brand will try the left-hand side. Beautiful work from Julians.
And that's something that you really, again, taking advantage of the fact that Monique Harris is a shorter blocker. She was nowhere touching that ball. Good job for taking advantage of that.
So these are 2 teams jockeying for position in the Big 12 Conference that's ultra competitive. You have Texas at the top, Kansas right behind them. 2 teams that were in the national semifinal last year, but these 2 teams, Kansas State, a record of 5-3, 4th in the Big 12 Conference, and then Iowa State 3-5, tied for 5th in the Big 12 Conference. But due to the structure of the conference, it's a round-robin format where you get to play a home-and-home. So you get to go on the road and you get to welcome them in. So this is a huge match for both these teams as Kansas State won at their house, Iowa State looking to hold serve here at Hilton.
And that's the big joys of just volleyball, but the Big 12 with their ability to play the same teams again. So right now for Iowa State, they need to come out with a win tonight, but they also need to come out with a couple of more wins when they play Texas and a team like Baylor who's been getting votes in the NCAA coaches poll. They just really need, right now it buckles down to getting wins.
Kansas State was ranked at 1 point earlier this season, 23rd, but they are currently receiving votes. Iowa State has wins over NCAA tournament teams from last year in Wichita State, Missouri State, and then TCU. 8 of their 9 losses versus 2015 NCAA tournament teams, so it's not like they are losing to bad teams. The one other loss they have, a 5-setter, their last match against Baylor, is Kansas State leading by 1 to serve.
Good call by the officiants to make sure that that ball was lifted by Kansas State, to not take any points away from Iowa State and how hard they're working to make sure they get out of this set with a win.
Shaven will serve for the Cyclones. Beautiful dig by Hilligus. Brand to Julians.
And they really can't side out with such a short blocker in Monique Harris. I hate to continue to say that, but they are really taking advantage of that smaller block with the discrepancy in height between Grace Lazar and Monique Harris.
One of the big reasons why they went to the 6'2" was Harris and her size, blocking-wise against Texas, was a big problem, but then they go to the 6'2", and they go to 5 sets against the Longhorns. Trying to find the defense and the points here. Brand left side, brought up by Hilligus. Harris will try the left as well. Through the block, K-State's turn. K-State players were all over it.
And you see they call a net violation on Harris. But you are seeing some very solid volleyball. Again, they are attacking the ball, but they are also being aggressive on the defensive end. And you see that each athlete is really trying to find out where the holes are on the court.
So set point for the Wildcats. Not so fast, says Grace Lazard.
And again, I think with that change of substituting, going back to the 5-1, you see Coach Johnson Lynch is really pushing her team. So you see that the switch with the taller blocker for Harris, they're going back to their 6'2", putting 3 hitters in the front.
So Horner back on as the setter as Lazard will serve. Still set point for the Wildcats, can end it here. Morgan Kurt off the block and out of bounds. Knotted up at 24.
And again, you already see the kind of shift that Iowa State made when they put Horner on the court in the back row to make sure that they have 3 hitters, so that Kansas State needs to figure out who's going to get the ball.
We will have some extra points, win by 2 at 24 apiece. And some high quality volleyball back and forth. Kansas State finding the points at 23-25 straight in set number 1. Iowa State able to close out in set number 2. So who can close out here in set number 3? Well, speaking of 3 huge games in the Big Ten, all with college football playoff implications. Started off 12 p.m. Eastern, number 2 Michigan looking to avenge that Crazy loss to Michigan State last season, then Northwestern against number 6 Ohio State, the midday matchup, and then the nightcap. The 7th-ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers against number 11 Wisconsin. Lots of great Big Ten action on the ESPN family of networks. So if you're on the go, check it out on Watch ESPN as well. 16 ties, 5 lead changes here in the third set.
And that's all because both teams, all the athletes are on the floor making sure that they at least get an arm. I know you see a lot of arms flailing about and not necessarily platforms and skill, but you're seeing players work hard at keeping the ball off of the floor, being good and ready at the block, and also just attacking, not necessarily tipping, but they're making sure that they're attacking the ball and finding the holes.
Grace Lazard to serve for Iowa State. Into the net on the swing from Julians. Set point for the Cyclones.
And Julian really tried to do something special other than just attack the ball. She tried to cut that really sharp toward position 4, and it just didn't work out.
Cyclones take set number 3.
And at that point, when it's so loud here, you kind of want to let the officiants make sure that that ball is dead, because from where I look, it's right in front of me. It looked to have been a ball up from Kansas State.
So it was Morgan Kirk that taps over the block and finds the floor as Iowa State closes out set number 3, winning 26-24. They have a 2-1 advantage as we head to the 4th. Welcome back to Ames, Iowa. Well, the calendar is about to flip to November. So that means we start looking at RPI, strength of schedule. And within the Big 12, you see Texas, hardest schedule in the country, 3 in RPI. But these two teams, Kansas State has the 2nd best RPI in the Big 12. Big reason that strength of schedule, 18 compared to the Jayhawks, 118th. And then Iowa State, their RPI 49th, part of that being that they haven't been able to find the quality wins. And now taking that 3rd set, this would be a huge win for that resume.
Absolutely, and you look at their schedule, maybe they're 17th or 18th in the nation in their RPI. They have a strong RPI, strong strength of schedule, but it also goes into those quality wins, not necessarily the losses of not, losing to a team that's ranked in the top 5 or the top 10, but you need to get a win from those teams that are ranked in the top 5 and the top 10 to kind of state your case as to why you need to be in the tournament come December.
Your strength of schedule is your past opponents' win percentage with your future opponents' win percentage.
And their strength of schedule and their RPI.
Yes, that's the RPI is what you've won along with what your opponents have won, and then your opponents' opponents as well. It gets very complicated.
We can go down the rabbit hole if we want it to.
Jeff Grove, the associate head coach for Kansas State, and Susie Fritz saying, that's my RPI guy. Every coach seems to have one on the staff that knows exactly where you're at, who to schedule, and what wins you really need.
And she really praised him for the talent of knowing how to schedule in the preseason, because that makes all the difference. Sometimes you don't know what type of team you're going to get in the preseason, so you really don't know how to schedule. And she said in that first tournament, the
Wisconsin.
Last person in the tournament for Hawaii was Wisconsin, so you can't plan for that, but it boosts your RPI with that win.
Oh, here, go ahead
loss,
and play a top 5 team in the country. Tyler Denning, Jennifer Fowler here at Hilton Coliseum, a battle of 2 Big 12 teams looking to punch their tickets and go to another NCAA tournament. For Iowa State, it's been the last 10. For Kansas State, they've been to the last 2 as well. Coming up after us, it will be Missouri, Texas A&M, some SEC volleyball action. Missouri traveling down to College Station looking to follow up that big win over Kentucky. They remain unbeaten in SEC play, the Tigers.
Now this is a good rotation for Iowa State with Lazard and West doing the double quick, that tandem that it's provided with having a back row setter.
And we'll try Sasson, bringing 2 defenders in quick. From Harris, very close to Lazard. Off of 1 foot. Sambothy.
And maybe if Shaban would have pressed in toward the court, taken away a little bit more of that area, that position 1, you see that she kind of elevates straight up. If she were to go a little bit further inside the court to her right, take away more of that position in position 1.
Tough ball for Harris, leaves Iowa State scrambling. Ball stays on their side. Shaban down the line.
And again, a little bit slower approach for Shaban. She didn't know how fast that ball was going to come off the hands of Harris, so she had to kind of alter her approach and making sure that a line was available for her.
Horner now in as the setter for Iowa State. Brand will try Sasson, who tips down the line.
Sasson's just been fun to watch. She has 16 kills on the match so far, but she's just a very smart player. You see her go right off the hands of number 3, Kurt, to make sure that it's aimed at position 1. I think that's been their strategy all match, is to make sure that they have 2 back row setters. They're going to where they are in position 1.
Point going to Kansas State. Sasson, a match high 16 kills. Did get some training work back in June over this summer with the U.S. Collegiate National Program. Sets for Shaban. Off the block and onto the floor.
And you can tell when she's taking a little bit of the heat off of her arm swing as we get deeper into this match. But it's still just as effective as long as you're putting points on the board.
Sometimes a little bit of touch, right?
It goes a long way.
Stuffed at the net. Morgan Kurt, Grace Lazard.
You kind of just let the volleyball speak for itself. They did a really good job of the timing to put that ball back on Kansas State's side.
The blocks were heavily in favor of Kansas State early on, but now 8.5 to 6. Iowa State finding some defense.
And that was a single block, so they're, again, padding their stats and coming even with Kansas State. You see, again, she pushes into the court, making sure that that ball lands on Kansas State.
So Iowa State keying up the defense as they are leading 7-5 here in set number 4. Welcome back to Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa. Big 12 volleyball matchup between the Kansas State Wildcats, Iowa State Cyclones. And here in set number 4, it's been the block of Iowa State.
And in the first 2 sets, it was the block of Kansas State. But now Iowa State has found their rhythm. Grace Lazard is all over the ball when it comes to making sure that she's penetrating the net. You see Caprizio getting in on the action with a single block.
When you've been talking a lot about solo blocks, 3 players with solo stuffs for the Cyclones. Chance for the Wildcats as Brand will back set on the slide. All off the antenna.
And again, good idea. Maybe sometimes you got to go down swinging. She could have taken an attack at that ball, Sambuthy, but she decided to make sure that that tip went over the block. It just hit the pins.
So Iowa State now opening up an advantage. 2 coming our way.
And again, Sambuthy tried to tip the first ball, and she says, nah, I'm just going to hit it and go down swinging.
K-State back to serve, and Coburn. Long and out of bounds. 8th service error for K-State on the match. Grace Lazard now to serve for Cyclones. Back set from Brand. Tapped over the block. Lazard can't get there in time.
And again, that was a good placement by Flowers for Kansas State to make sure that it goes right over the arm of Caprizio. She just took her eye off the ball.
Back set from Horner. Off the block, out of bounds. Harris with a lot of traffic ends up benefiting the Cyclones.
And again, when you're running that double quick, it's kind of like a cluster if that ball isn't placed behind the 10-foot line. You saw that there was a tip given the ball to Iowa State from Kansas State, and there was a little bit of cluster to make sure that that ball's been sent back over quicker.
Advantage at 4 for Iowa State. Harris serving. The fans loved multiple points within that. Hilligus had the great save, and then Harris ends it.
And you gotta wonder what is happening. They're saying that Harris crossed the plane of the net, and she's far too, I'm gonna say this, she's far too short to make an athletic play to cross the plane of the net. Her being a back row setter, they're saying that she elevated and her hands were over the plane of the net, the top of the net.
Tim Harlow, the up judge who you see Harris is conversing with, and Coach Johnson Lynch as well, talking with the down official about exactly what you said. She didn't even leave her feet, and it looks like Chrissy Johnson Lynch will go for the challenge card. Big smile on Harris. She doesn't feel like she did anything wrong. But nonetheless, it was a great rally back and forth. Great save by Hilligus going all the way over towards the bench. So the challenge is on the net fault. So they called the net fault on Harris, so the point went to Kansas State. Iowa State obviously disagreeing with that, so the challenge card being played by Johnson Lynch. Here's your look.
And I think Johnson Lynch is calling a net on Kansas State because Harris was not above the plane of the net. So the ball was not above the plane of the net. So legal contact from Harris. So they're calling a net call because in a challenge system, that's one of the only plays that you can call to make sure that the ball comes back to you.
Thank you for helping me out there, partner.
Well, again, it was a great play by Harris to kind of, they don't want to change the momentum. But again, you cannot challenge a ref on what they call with it being so subjective. It looks like Harris was not above the plane of the net because she is a back row setter. She cannot cross the top of the net because that is considered an attack for her. So they called her on an attack. But they are challenging whether the net was touched by Kansas State.
What did you see?
I saw a good play from Harris, sending that second ball over. I saw an officiant make a call that's saying that she attacked the ball. I didn't see a net.
So in the review process right now. And I want to go back to, how about the save from Hilligus as well?
I mean, again, you're watching volleyball where everyone is keeping, I can't say it enough, they're trying to do everything they can to keep the ball off of the floor. You have to admire the hustle and the tenacity of both sides. They're really scrappy players.
Point goes to Iowa State. So there was a net fault by Kansas State.
And you see Coach Johnson Lynch looks at Joe Lynch and says, that's all you. You call that. That is all you. You won that point for us.
Giving props where props are due.
Absolutely.
So we're all sorted out after the challenge. Point after the long rally and all that excitement going to Iowa State, and Harris will serve. Harris back set for Samara West.
And you see a new player for Kansas State, maybe to change the dynamic. You see Zumach. Zumach is in on the outside pins, and that's going against Samara West, and she just couldn't handle it.
Kylie Zumach, redshirt sophomore, huge player. Samara West going right at her blocking wise. Iowa State has really found a groove here in the fourth set. Now with the 6-point advantage, they want to try to find that first signature win. They're on their way.
And I think if Kansas State wants to remain in this set, they really need to pass the ball. Iowa State has done a good job of serving them out of system and making sure that their offense becomes a little bit more predictable. We haven't called Katie Brand's name a lot in this set. She hasn't been as dynamic as she has been in the first three. So they really need to just buckle down, take care of the ball on their side of the net, and make sure that they get in system.
Well, we have high-quality volleyball going on right now. Expect the same as Missouri visits Texas A&M the next match on ESPNU. So stick around for that one after we wrap up here in Ames. Iowa State looking to wrap it up here in the fourth, leading 13-7. Teams out of their respective huddles, and exactly what you were talking about when Kansas State was having the success in closing out set one and then back and forth in set number two. In set three, it was Sasson and Brand. Brand has been sitting on 9 kills for a long time. Now, granted, she is the setter, but Sasson as well.
Absolutely, and that shows with the technique of serving from Iowa State. They're serving aggressive, not allowing Brand to get those attacks, serving them out of system, getting their offense predictable.
Harris will serve, going long. Brand will try in the middle for Vogel.
And again, with the triple block, you see that in the middle, you have Conaway a little bit shorter than Caprizio and West on as bookends for her, so they took advantage of her being the shorter block.
Zumach, the one that just served, just to go to your point, she was a 2014 AVCA honorable mention, Big 12 Freshman of the Year, had an ACL injury, only played 8 sets last year. And so she's been dealing with that throughout the season, just 2 sets against West Virginia. Coach Fritz telling us that she's only at about 85% right now. So in the match right now, but one of K-State's best players, but is currently dealing with some injury issues, is number 7, Kylie Zumach.
And having rotated out, you kind of want to get in the head of Coach Fritz to wonder why she put Zumach in the match at this such a crucial moment.
Well, for those of you tuning in to see Missouri take on Texas A&M, you can watch the start of that match over on the SEC alternate channel. Tiffany Green, Maria Taylor down in College Station bringing you that. ESPNU will switch over as soon as we wrap up this match here in Ames. So Missouri, Texas A&M on the SEC alternate network.
And we see Sasson getting a little bit more involved for Kansas State. You saw her getting the last point, but just couldn't handle the ball right here. But again, West and the bigger blockers being a dominant presence for Iowa State.
So now 5-point advantage for the Cyclones. Hillegas to serve. Short serve doesn't clear the tape. 6th service error on the match for the Cyclones.
And again, a good rotation with Harris at the setting position. Let's look for this ball to go to Gracie Lazert or West in a double quick.
Vogel reciprocates. That's at least the second time I can remember Iowa State with the service error that Kansas State gives right back. Those are the ones that you look back on and cringe.
It really is to go back and forth with mistakes. It's not necessarily a part of volleyball because you want to limit those errors, but you're giving, in a rally scoring situation, you're giving the team another point.
Horner back in as the setter. She was serving to start this point. Off the block, out of bounds. Cyclones, Morgan Kirk. Kirk now 11 kills on the match. 4 players in double digits. Balance for the Cyclones.
And she's been really quiet. You see her take advantage of Sasson on the block, on a single block. But Kurt has been really quiet with only 11 kills.
Horner down the line with her serve. Sasson right at a triple block. Tries Sasson again, right back at the triple block. With the ball out of bounds off the block. Zumach back in, up front. Sasson will serve for the Wildcats. K-State needing this to send it to 5. Saved by Horner for Shaven.
And that was a ball, since Horner is a back row setter, she has to distribute the ball. She could not take that second ball over. Usually in a 5-1 offense, that ball would have been put right back on the side of Kansas State, but she had to find a way to get that ball outside to Shaven.
Shaven now 12 kills, 444 hit percentage for the sensational sophomore. Zumach trying from the left side. Lazard onto the block and down to the floor.
And for Lazard, you really have to appreciate her transition play. It's not just always from a serve receive situation. She's getting the ball off of a defensive end from Hillegas and getting that ball in transition.
Iowa State has really stepped up the efficiency since transitioning to this 6-2. They're hitting 6-11 in this set, leading by 7. Brand trying quickly with the dump. Zumach is dug by Hillegas. Horner will try the left. Wildcats turn. Back set, tap down the line, out of bounds.
And a good heads-up play by Hillegas, again, making sure that she is following that ball out of bounds. She's the unsung hero kind of in this set so far. She is really getting those balls up when need be, but also making sure she's making the right decision.
So Iowa State, after letting the first set slip, they could have closed out at 23-20. They were able to close the second and third, and now with a sizable advantage, looking to stamp another conference win into their ledger. Horner. Back set from Brand. Beautiful swing and much needed from Sandbothy.
And Sandbothy is really trying to get her team kind of pumped up. That was a great transition play by her. Defense is working a lot for Kansas State to make sure that those balls are getting to Katie Brand, and she's just putting the ball away, but she's trying to find the energy for her team to fight back.
She sits down. Macy Flowers checking in for the Wildcats, needing to go on a run. Quick set for Lazard off the top of the tape. Wildcats, Julians off the block. Out of bounds, point to Kansas State.
And you see Julian did a good job of making sure that that ball, high hands, but also off the block. She's aiming that ball toward position 1, even though there's a solid block presence.
20-14 here in set number 4. K-State wanting to send it to 5. Iowa State looking to close out. Lazard with the serve. Cyclones now 3 away.
And one of the things that Coach Fritz is doing right now is she's letting her team play through this battle. They really need to find their identity and make sure that they're getting passes and staying focused on their side of the court.
Long and out of bounds on the swing from Julians. So a challenge coming from Kansas State. They are challenging if Iowa State touched the ball. Here's what happened.
The challenge system really comes into play if the ball is touched, if they're calling a contact, the ball making a contact with the player, it has to be definitive. And if it's not definitive, they really need to make sure that they get the call right, especially in such a crucial momentum change. And you see that right there, the ball did not change directions. So you have to go with your initial call of the ball being out.
Here's a look from the top. The call is in. No touch. Call is confirmed. Iowa State 2 points away. And for Zumock. Zumock is long and out of bounds. Match point coming for the Cyclones. Ball back to Kansas State. Will be served by Katie Brand. Remains match point for Iowa State. Horner brings it back. Cyclones with an all-important Big 12 conference victory here at home.
And what a battle between both of these teams. Good job of staying in system. I think Kansas State at the end of this game kind of got away from their game plan and their strategy of making sure their first contact with the pass was perfect to Brand.
So the Cyclones take the 4-set 25-15. They take it 3-1 over Kansas State. So that's it from Ames, Iowa. Let's now send you to Tiffany Green and Maria Taylor in College Station for Missouri and Texas A&M. Take it away.